Why do people get sunburned so easily while most animals seem totally fine under the same sun? Feels obvious, right? Humans go to the beach, turn pink, complain for 2 days, and swear they will never forget sunscreen again. Meanwhile, the dog is lying in the yard, the birds are out all afternoon, and cows are standing in a field like the sun owes them rent. So it is tempting to think animals just do not get sunburned. But that is not actually true. Animals can get sunburned. Some do it surprisingly often. White cats can burn on their ears. Light-skinned dogs can burn on their noses and bellies. Pigs can burn. Horses can burn. Even huge animals like elephants and rhinos need ways to protect themselves. So the better question is not why people get sunburned and animals do not. The better question is, why do humans seem so exposed, while many animals come with better built-in sun protection? The short answer is that sunburn happens when ultraviolet radiation, especially UVB, damages skin cells faster than the body can defend or repair them. Human skin is often sitting out in the open, with relatively little natural covering compared with fur, feathers, or scales. Many animals, by contrast, have evolved with physical barriers, pigmentation, and behaviors that reduce how much ultraviolet light reaches vulnerable skin in the first place. So let us break that down. Sunburn is basically an injury. When too much ultraviolet radiation hits exposed skin, it damages DNA in skin cells and triggers inflammation. That is the redness, pain, heat, swelling, and later peeling that we call a sunburn. Melanin, the pigment in skin and hair, helps absorb and scatter some of that ultraviolet radiation, which is why pigmentation matters so much. But melanin is only part of the story. Coverage matters too. A lot. And humans, compared with most mammals, are weirdly underdressed. We do have hair, of course. But compared with a wolf, a horse, a bear, or even a house cat, our body hair is thin, short, and not especially useful as a UV shield. On much of the human body, sunlight can hit skin directly with almost no natural barrier at all. That means our skin is doing the protective work mostly by itself. If our melanin level, exposure time, latitude, season, or time of day do not line up in our favor, we burn. Most animals are starting from a different baseline. Fur, feathers, and scales act like built-in sun gear. They do not make an animal invincible, but they reduce how much ultraviolet radiation reaches the skin. Dense fur can shade the skin underneath. Feathers create a layered barrier over most of a bird's body. Scales can provide protection too, although reptiles have a separate problem. Overheating can become dangerous before classic sunburn is even the main issue. Then there is pigmentation. Many animals have dark skin under their fur, dark noses, dark eyelids, or other pigmented areas that are naturally more UV resistant. The places most likely to burn are usually the spots where protection is missing. Pale skin, thin hair, bare noses, ear tips, shaved areas, scars, or bellies with sparse fur. That is why veterinarians keep seeing the same pattern. The animals most likely to burn are often the ones with less pigment or less coverage. White or lightly colored cats are famous for developing sun damage on their ear tips. Short-haired or thin-coated dogs can burn on exposed skin. Newly shaved or recently groomed animals can lose an important layer of protection. Farm animals can be vulnerable too, especially on pale or sparsely haired areas. So yes, animals do get sunburned. We just notice it less because many animals are better protected most of the time. Behavior is another huge piece of the puzzle. Humans are not just hairless by mammal standards. We are also stubborn. We go outside in the middle of the day on purpose. We lie still in direct sun because we want a tan. We hike, garden, swim, and play sports in open spaces with a lot of skin exposed. Then, for extra drama, we sometimes add reflective surfaces like sand, water, or concrete that bounce more radiation back at us. Animals, on the other hand, often behave in ways that reduce exposure automatically. They seek shade. They rest during the hottest part of the day. They orient their bodies differently. They move into burrows, under trees, into tall grass, or into water. Large mammals such as elephants and rhinos add mud, dust, or sand to the equation, which works like a rough physical sun shield while also helping with temperature control and insects. That is not an accident. It is survival behavior. In other words, many animals do not just wear protection. They practice sun safety better than we do. That said, animal protection is not perfect. If an animal has exposed skin and enough UV exposure, burning can happen. Pigs are a classic example because they do not have the thick fur coverage that protects many other mammals. Hairless dog breeds are another obvious case. Sheep can become more vulnerable after shearing. Cats with white ears are at particular risk. Even marine mammals are not automatically safe. Some research has found evidence of UV damage in whales, showing that life in nature does not mean automatic immunity. There is also an important medical twist here. In animals, sun damage may not always look the way it does in humans. We are used to bright red shoulders and obvious pain. In animals, the signs can be easier to miss. Crusting on ear tips, irritated skin on the nose, inflammation on lightly haired areas, or repeated lesions that owners assume are just minor irritation. Chronic sun exposure can contribute to more serious problems, including actinic damage and certain skin cancers, especially in vulnerable animals. So if animals can burn, why do humans seem like the champions of sunburn? Part of it is anatomy. Our skin is simply more exposed. Part of it is evolution. Humans evolved with different skin pigmentation across populations in response to long-term ultraviolet conditions, but we now travel, vacation, migrate, and live far from the UV environments our ancestors adapted to. A person with lighter skin can burn quickly in intense equatorial or summer UV. A person with darker skin has more natural protection because of higher melanin, but not complete protection. Nobody is immune to UV damage forever. Part of it is culture. Very few animals decide that peak summer noon is the perfect time to lie on a reflective beach and slowly roast for aesthetics. That is a deeply human kind of mistake. And part of it is visibility. Human sunburn is easy to spot. Our skin turns red, we complain loudly, and we have mirrors. A burned cat does not post an update saying, "My ears were a bad choice today." Unless the damage is obvious, people may miss it. There is another interesting irony here. The same lack of body hair that makes humans vulnerable may also have helped our ancestors cool themselves more effectively through sweating and endurance movement in hot environments. In other words, humans traded one kind of heat advantage for less passive skin protection. We became very good at dumping heat, but that did not mean we became great at blocking ultraviolet radiation. So now we need hats, clothes, shade structures, sunscreen, and after-sun regret. Meanwhile, animals often rely on a combination of structure, pigment, and habit. Fur blocks light. Pigment absorbs some of what gets through. Behavior limits peak exposure. Mud and dust add extra shielding in some species. And when one or more of those protections are missing, the risk rises fast. That is why veterinarians and wildlife experts pay close attention to animals with white skin, pink noses, sparse coats, recent shaving, or a lot of outdoor exposure. It is also why pet sunscreen exists, and why experts warn owners not to assume a fur coat solves everything. So the real answer to the question is this. People get sunburned more obviously and more often not because animals are immune, but because humans have more exposed skin and often make choices that maximize UV exposure. Animals usually have better natural coverage, more protective pigmentation in vulnerable areas, and behaviors that help them avoid the worst sunlight. But when those defenses are weak, animals can absolutely burn too. That flips the whole question around. The mystery is not why animals never get sunburned. They do. The mystery is why humans, a species smart enough to build satellites, air conditioners, and giant floating hotels, still routinely walk into a blazing summer afternoon with bare shoulders and no sunscreen, then act surprised when the sun behaves exactly like the sun. So next time you see a dog stretched in the yard or elephants tossing dust over their backs, remember, nature did not hand animals a magic sunproof pass. It handed many of them better equipment and better instincts. Humans got a big brain instead. And apparently we use part of that brain to forget sunscreen in the car.